It's thinking. All right. We're good. We're live. We'll give a. It's still kind of glitching on my end here and there too.
Yeah, you're frozen. I can't hear you.
It's just glitching.
Yeah, it's going in and out, in and out.
In and out, in and out.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
It's so weird. It's going to be going in and out.
You're still frozen.
Still frozen. Wow. All right.
I mean, we can reschedule, man. If you want, like, it's not a big deal. I know technical difficulties are sometimes a pain in the ass if it won't work.
It is. Let's see what happens, man, and let it go for a little bit. If not, once we get some people on, I'll apologize and we can bow out. I leave tomorrow and I'll be gone for 2.5 weeks. So
okay.
It'd be a month probably for you and I could get back together. So we got 5 people on. So guys, having technical difficulties tonight. Camera's not working well. Mic's not working well. I think it's StreamYard, but it could be my computer or my internet. I don't know. So tonight we're going to talk with David Souza, Corbin Cache in Atwater, California, home of one of my favorite ryes, which is going to be this Corbin Cache Merced rye. And I just wanted to let David come on tonight and tell you guys a little bit about Corbin Cache, their grain to glass, full-blown farm, distilling their own juice, bottling it, aging it, the whole 9 yards. And we're going out to see these guys in September to do a pick for Brutally Honest Bourbon. Pitiful. All right. So, David, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn the stage over to you. Tell us all about yourself, Corbin Cache, and I'll sit back and be quiet.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Thanks for jumping on with me and Brandon. I'm David Souza, founder, master distiller at Corbin Cache. We've been foremost a farm in Central California since 1917. It was started by my great-grandfather, who immigrated from the Azore Islands in Portugal back when he was just 16 years old. Came out to Santa Cruz. He took the train out to Santa Cruz in California, worked in the silver mines, and then landed out here kind of in the desert. We always laugh because he came from an island and ended up in the desert. And the first things he started planting were sweet potatoes and rye. So those have been our 2 staple crops since 1917. Over the years, we've expanded into watermelons, peaches, cassavas, cattle, almonds, and then we had a dairy. But sweet potatoes and rye have been our staples since the beginning. And so as my dad, my great-grandfather, my grandfather grew the farm to a couple hundred acres. And then my dad, the 3rd generation, David Souza the 3rd, he was kind of the ambitious one and took it to another level and expanded from the 200 acres to now 2,000 acres of what we farm today. We farm a little bit of corn, we farm a little bit of wheat, but rye is our intentional grain crop, mainly because the Merced rye is part of our, it's our cover crop. It's a sustainable farming process, which we don't have to irrigate the Merced rye because it can survive with such a little amount of rainfall. So it's it does really well in our arid climate. In the 108 years we've been farming it, we've only literally had to pull the sprinkler pipes and out and irrigate it 3 or 4 times. So it's not only key in the fact that it works really well, but also it helps the sweet potato ground. It strengthens it. It also, the sweet potatoes do better when we have the Merced rye on it, because of the root system actually goes down 13.5 feet. So all of our nitrogen and potash, so not, the South, the places I've been in the South, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, your soil's a little bit heavier. Out here where we live, it's more like beach sand, really super sandy, which is, there's a big pocket here in the San Joaquin Valley, that this was kind of where all the water from Yosemite, this was the plains where it would run into and created like silt beds. And these sandy soils are really rich and fertile, but they use a lot of water. So the Merced rye, being what it does, our fertilizers leach out pretty easily, but that Merced rye brings it back to the surface so the sweet potatoes can utilize it the next year. So it's really not just a cover crop like we thought when my great-grandfather started planting it, for basically wind control, dust control, weed control. It actually helps the sweet potatoes grow better. So, and I think that's one of the conversations Brandon and I had about our rye, why it tastes a little different than a lot of ryes out there, and it has a little bit more complexity sometimes, and you find different notes in it, is because of we're more vegetable farmers than we are really grain farmers. And those vegetables, whether it's or tree farming, right? When that Merced rye is planted on sweet potato ground, the rye whiskey that comes from that soil tastes different than if I take that rye from an almond field that's been in almonds for 30 years, plant rye on it and make whiskey from it. We have barrels in the rick house. We can taste you the difference on them. And they drink, there's some similarities, but there's some definite differences. And so we get people that come out and do single barrel picks, and they're like, wow, these are wildly different. They're both really good, but and so it's interesting to see who likes what and what their profiles are. So, but yeah, I'm the 4th generation farmer, turned distiller. Basically 2007, we had, it was 08 was coming, the crash, we saw it coming, and I was looking for something to diversify into. And a lot of our sweet potatoes were going for 1,000-pound bins, we're going for $5. Our rye wasn't being used for anything but a cover crop. So I decided to buy a book off the internet, made a still, and started working in my garage. Taught myself within like a year and a half, had the recipes down, but still wasn't 100% confident. And I knew I could make it, but what it was going to taste like off a true, like a big still, was yet to come. So I was just using a little 5-gallon pot still. So it took another year and a half to license and build the distillery out. So that was 2010 when we launched into the market with our vodka, the world's first sweet potato vodka. And then we launched our rye whiskey after it was 4 years old back in 2014. So initially it was the sweet potato vodka, which led into sweet potato based gin and liqueurs. But in that time frame, we were also laying down barreled aged sweet potato spirit, which initially I thought I was going to be able to call it the world's first sweet potato whiskey. And then, of course, the government told me I couldn't call it whiskey. So we kind of laid it to the side, and then years later, once distilled specialty spirits became viable to put an age statement with finished bourbons and finished ryes, that gave us the in to put out our barrel-aged sweet potato alcohol as well. And so we're doing those single barrel selections. So that's kind of it in a gist of what we do, how I got started. The name Corbin Cash is my son, so he is the 5th generation, and decided to hopefully name the brand after him, and hopefully someday he'll take it over. Can you hear me, Brandon? I lost you. I can kind of see you now.
I'm wondering if it's not my laptop now. All of a sudden, maybe it's crapping out. I don't know, man. I've never had an issue with it. It's only a year and a half old. But last I heard, you were talking about your sweet potato whiskey, and they wouldn't let you call it whiskey.
Yeah, they wouldn't let us call it whiskey. So we basically, I've got like 300 barrels laid down of, anywhere from, 7 to 12-year-old sweet potato alcohol. And we've been able to start releasing those now that we can put age statements on them. And we've slowly started letting them out. So getting people used to them, understanding what it is. But they've been doing really well for the few that we've released. So it's been pretty cool to see that kind of set another differentiation into the industry of what we're doing.
It's definitely different. I didn't totally dislike it, but it's like you said, it's something to get used to. It's way different when you're approaching it from a bourbon standpoint, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just like,
and I think it's
Scotch or anything else from that standpoint.
Yeah, and it probably, like I tell most people, it probably is more reminiscent of a really good cognac than it is bourbon, right? Because it has the sweet potato actually has a lot more fruity notes to it. It's probably more fruit forward and floral than a whiskey is. So although we have certain barrels from certain varieties, so we use, we farm 12 different varieties of sweet potatoes, but I use 5 in the distilling process. And so each sweet potato or blend tastes very different. So there are a couple that taste a little more like whiskey, but everybody that's been picking them, they're like, oh no, I like this because it's so much different than whiskey. So kind of trying to differentiate it. So,
and I agree. I think you just have to be open-minded, right?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. You got to be open-minded to it, and it won't be for everybody. Just like, you can't make everybody happy. You'll die, you'll go crazy trying to, but, you try to find people that, fall in love with the product and your brand. And hopefully you can find something that makes somebody happy. Because in today's world, there's so much out there, right? And it's funny because in the whiskey world, everybody's like, well, what do you got that's new? And I'm like, do you know how hard it is to bring out a new whiskey? It's not like a new flavor, unless you're flavoring stuff. But when you're trying to do things from a legit standpoint, it's not easy to, especially, we're so young into it, right? We've been doing this 16, 17 years, which seems like forever, but it's a baby in the industry when it comes to doing this. And so, back in, 15, 16 years ago, I was just hoping people would like rye whiskey. Because, even then, rye really wasn't a big thing when I started. And then it started to become a thing. it was like it's kind of forgotten about. And then Whistle Pig kind of brought the thing back, and it was funny when I got into whiskey. I wasn't a big bourbon drinker, but I got introduced to rye, and I was like, I really liked rye, and that's what kind of prompted me to make it from our Merced rye rather than trying to get other grains. Then we started making bourbon later because people were like, well, you're gonna have a distillery and not make bourbon? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of bourbon on the market, but our single barrel bourbons have been hot, especially the hazmat stuff. Like, they've been crazy. So, but I did just barely lay down a limited amount of bourbon. And so we've been ramping that up the last couple of years. So our bourbons are pretty rare right now, but hopefully in the next few years, we'll be releasing a few more.
Well, I just poured this closing remarks weeded. It's a 9-year, 127 proof weeded that was distilled by you guys. While it is different, it's phenomenal. Like, I talk about like depth of flavor, like the flavor dial being dialed up.
I lost you.
And we're back. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah. Now you're out. And I don't know, I'm trying to connect so I can comment, but it won't let me. I'm trying to comment in the comments to everybody, but for some reason mine isn't hooking up either. So I don't know if you can hear me, Brandon, but I think it's StreamYard, because I was trying to get into the comments and it won't let me in to comment. So but he was talking about, if you guys can hear me, he was talking about the weeded bourbon, the Harris Ranch. And so they are a big farm out by us, and they approached us about making whiskey for them. And so that's how they came out and were interested in doing a project for their owner as kind of a specialty project, and then ended up going a little deeper into the whiskey world than I think they originally anticipated. So yeah. And I don't know. I think mine froze. So somebody in the chat's asking what size barrels we use. So we use all full size. We do use some 59-gallon barrels. So we found that like in our French oak, when we did our double oak 12-year, we did 53-gallon American oak, 59-gallon French oak. And we use some 59 gallons as well for our sweet potato alcohol for laying down longer, for less angel share on some of those bigger barrels. But everything's been 53s, and we use 3 different barrel companies. We use initially we started with ISC, and then we also use Sega Moreau out of Napa, and we use a local cooperage here at Fresno as well, who originally made wine barrels and then started making whiskey barrels, which have been really nice to have close to home, and they custom make them to however we see fit. So I see somebody got a bottle of the Lost Lantern bottle. Tastes like notes of sweet potato casserole with toasted pecans and marshmallows. And if you like that, that's very similar to what our single barrel sweet potato spirit tastes like. It has a lot of those same notes. You also get some like apricot, butterscotch, and dried apple cinnamon notes as well. So I think that's kind of the uniqueness of the sweet potato alcohol versus like the rye whiskey, which is definitely more spice forward rather than sweet forward. I think we lost Brandon. Can you guys still hear me? You hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm reading the chat. I can't hear anything. So if you guys have any, I see somebody with the RFID chips, seals. Just recently we had a little bit of an issue. Somebody was asking if we had any issues. So I think what happened is we had some new people working for us, and when they put the seals on, sometimes they push them down and they pop back up, and they push them down, and they're not supposed to do that. I've tried to explain that to people, and so sometimes it'll read that it's been opened even though it's not been opened. But that's about the only issues we've had with them so far. Can you hear us, Brandon?
Yeah, man. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm on my wife's laptop, so hopefully this works better. God, dude, I'm so sorry. I don't know anything about Apple.
They can still hear me. Well, I think it's StreamYard because when it cuts you out, I'm trying to join the chat so I can, and it won't let me join the chat in StreamYard. So I was asking them if they could hear me, and they were telling me they could. So I said if anybody had any questions to go, feel free. I'm just reading through the chat here.
Cool. Yeah, so I was talking a little bit about your wheat a second ago. So like,
yeah, I was explaining that to them, how Harris Ranch and I kind of got into it, how they got into the whiskey thing and how they approached me. So the initial stuff you're trying now, we didn't make, just so you're aware.
Okay.
So they came to us, I don't know, it's been 5 or 6 years ago, I guess now it's, and they wanted to do a special project for their owner, John Harris. And they wanted to make their own whiskey. They had their own beer and they had their own wine. They wanted to make their own whiskey. They own a 20,000 acre farm. They were one of the biggest cattle ranches on the West Coast, with over 200,000 head of cattle. And then they own a restaurant, bar, and hotel up the I-5. And so they wanted to have their own whiskey at their restaurant. And they also own over 300 racehorses. And that's where the Closing Remarks was their most famous racehorse for them. So okay. They wanted to sell the whiskey at the restaurant and then possibly at the horse tracks when they were racing. And then, so we got the project. They came to me and they wanted a wheated bourbon. I'm like, well, I don't have any wheated bourbon, but I can make it. But what kind of profile do you like? And of course they're like, well, we like Weller, we like this. And I'm like, I don't know what those mash bills are. So we kind of went out in the world and we talked to some brokers and we found a couple of different weeded bourbons that they liked, and then we kind of settled on one that we knew the mash bill, and then we started making it. So we have some, 2, 3, 4-year-old barrels, 5-year-old barrels laying down, but we sourced those first ones that were 9, 10 years old. So we kind of had a profile to deal with. But I honestly think the stuff we're making and aging out here versus the stuff that's aged in Kentucky, which they really love, but I think we're going to get some really cooler notes out here in this heat from the stuff we're making from scratch. But I guess that'll be a time to tell in a few years.
Well, this wheat is absolutely fantastic, and it still is much like something I've never had. So
yeah,
I would have believed you if you said you distilled it, but it's
well,
really unique, and I like it.
I think so. It aged out here for a while before we released it, and that's what I think. I feel like aging out here in our temperature actually did change it, and it created some different nuances for it.
Okay.
So, and it's funny because I wasn't a huge weeded fan until like they really set me on this project, and then I'm like, okay, I can't say that anymore. I just had never really had a really good weeded bourbon, and so now I'm like, I'm a huge fan of weeded bourbon. And to be honest, until I started the project, I'd never even had Weller.
Really?
I hadn't. I told Darren, the CEO, I'm like, he's like, well, you haven't had Weller? And I'm like, I haven't, because I've had weeded whiskey, and I wasn't a fan, but it was all really young stuff, right? It was a lot of craft wheat whiskey that was, a couple years old. And then, so he's like, he gave me a bottle, he tasted me on, he had a ton of it. And I'm like, okay, I see the hype. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's typically softer and sweeter, and sometimes I feel like I can get more mouthfeel with it. It's not nearly as complex though as rye or barley. So a weeded bourbon with some malted barley, that goes a long way. But yeah, I tend to like rye and barley more. So single malts and rye whiskey, I feel have way more complexity, right? Bourbon's good. I love bourbon, but I really want a high rye, high malted barley mash bill, right? So give me 50 point.
Yeah. So see, me and you are kind of on the same profile. Like I like bourbon, but it's never my go-to unless there's no rye available, or I've always been a spicy, more complex, even certain single malts I've gotten into, but I think my palate definitely leans into a rye whiskey versus, that's where I started. And I've learned to love bourbon, but out here, I think our bourbons do taste a little bit different. We get, especially with the Merced rye being a part of that, I think we still get that, those sweet potato notes and stuff. And especially like in our sour mash bourbon, where it's a little bit more of a high rye. Okay. It's a 70% white corn with 25% Merced rye. So it's, but we did it like a true Kentucky sour mash. So we take mash out of the back set out of the still and put it in the new batch. And it's definitely has some of the different notes, which I'm not a big sweet drinker. So that's why when I first made bourbon, I made sour mash, because I was like, I want something a little more muted sweetness with a little more spice level to it. But then our sweet mash bourbon just came out, and it's like, oh shit, this is actually, but they were all, after, we didn't release it till 8 years old, and they were all hazmats. every single one of them was a hazmat.
Just a drier environment, so you're not having a lot of humidity hold the water in, and that's why you're.
No, we don't get.
Colorado, or?
Oh no, dude, we're dry. We're like Vegas. Like we're a desert. Like our humidity out here is very limited, mostly in the winter. Through the summer here, we're kind of like probably I would say the only probably the next worst place to age whiskey would be Texas, because in Texas you have the same heat we have, but you also have 80% humidity.
Yeah.
We don't get that humidity, so we lose a lot of water long before we lose alcohol. So our proofs tend to go up. It's rare to ever see. Like when we did the 12-year, I actually temperature controlled those so the proof would not evaporate away. And so that's how we ended up with right at that 128 proof. But I also feel like the problem with the 12-year, that by temperature controlling it so we didn't have so much angel share, was it didn't get as complex either. So the complexity is not quite where I wanted it to be. You still taste the French oak. You still, it's still got nice mouthfeel and body, but it's not rich like some of our 10-year 140 proofs, right? Like compared to that single barrel, it's not as like chewy. And that's probably my only disappointment on it but I feel like we've we sold out most of the bottles, and we've got really great feedback, but I feel like it didn't, like for me, it didn't have the complexity of some of our hazmat, higher proof 10-year, 11 years. So the next stuff, we're going to lay it in longer. I'm not going to temperature control it as much, just to see if we can get those really intense, high rise spices that I love.
Are you chill filtering? Because the whiskey is super clear.
We do not chill filter. We do filter, but we don't chill filter.
Good. I prefer that you're not. I want all the fat and everything in there. Right?
Yeah.
Well, whiskey's really clear. I don't see any like chunks floating in it
Well, and that's part of I think this one, we put this through our plate filter. Our single barrels, we use just a milk filter, so we don't use the plate filter, and we probably should have used the milk filter, which is takes less out of it. But they hooked up the other filter, and so our plate filter is what we do, like our sweet potato liqueur, where we have to pull out a lot of the charcoal, because it changes the flavor profile of what we're mixing. But then with the whiskeys, especially the single barrels, we tend to just go through a milk filter, so you don't have, because if you don't do a milk filter at all, you get a ton of sediment at the bottom.
Okay.
And so, I don't care, but some people, we used to get people that call the distillers like, hey man, there's shit floating in my whiskey. And I'm like, I go, that's just charcoal. But, they're like, it tastes good. I just want to make sure that there's nothing bad. And I'm like, so we started using the milk filter, which kind of, because we don't chill filter. The only thing we chill filter is our vodka. Like, that's it.
I got you. So I think I would love to try a double oak rye like this 12-year, but maybe not in French oak. The French oak in this, knowing that that's what it is, it's delicious. I think that the friend of mine that had this either had not ever had your product, or had maybe only had a single barrel Merced rye. And like you were saying, these things are robust with flavor, like punch you in the face. This thing is a lot softer, sweeter. Maybe not quite as many notes. Like the complexity here is like a roller coaster, right? And then like you and I were talking, like the ryes have so many variations of flavor profiles, and some don't lend to my palate, some do, and that's just a personal thing. But you totally educated me on what you were saying earlier, where if the rye was grown in a sweet potato field versus an almond field, I never thought about any of that enhancing or affecting the flavor.
If you'd asked me, 6-7 years ago, do you think terroir makes a difference in whiskey? I would have said no, because everything we've ever really released has always been the same. We keep really strategic farm records, and And then we started getting these barrels that tasted a little different. So I'd go back and I'd see like, okay, this was which field number this was. And now we can absolutely see that it's not just the terroir, so like the type of soil makes a difference, because when you come out, I'll taste you on this super funky batch we have. Like I said, most of our soil is sandy out here. We had a batch in 2016 that I picked one field to make the whiskey from, because that year we had rented a field from one of our friends down the road. They pulled out their orchard. They asked us to farm it in sweet potatoes and clean up the roots and all that. So we planted it in rye, and it's a little bit on the border of the Highway 140, and the ground out there is a little bit heavier. So a little bit more clay loam versus our sandy loam soil. And that year in 2019 or 16, sorry, we got 19 and a half inches of rain versus our standard 12 inches of rain that we normally get out here. And which doesn't sound like a lot compared to what you guys get.
No.
But so 19 and a half inches of rain out here, we're in hog heaven. Well, the rye that in that field, it was literally underwater almost most of the year, super saturated, but the seeds, the plants were bigger, the seeds were fatter. We actually, Merced rye tends to lean into the, anywhere from 57% starch all the way down to 45% starch, where Midwestern rye would be like anywhere from 65 to 70% starch.
Right.
So that particular year, our Merced rye was at 63% starch on that. So I was like, dude, I'm just using this whole field because I'm going to get better production.
Right.
So I didn't use any other field. I used that field strategically. And imagine 8 years later, to my surprise, when I taste the whiskey, I'm like, it tastes like wet grass. Like it
really,
it lit like, so when you come out to do a barrel pick, I'll taste you on it. And it's the same rye we make today, just grown in a different kind of soil with a lot more water on it. And
wow,
it tastes like a really young, and when I say young, like Scotch, I mean like young, like probably like a 6 or an 8 year Scotch, where they taste very vegetal and kind of grassy.
Yeah,
dude. And it's funny, like, I didn't want to bottle it. I was just like, nah, man, this is just too different. It's gonna throw people off. And my sales team's like, no, man, it's cool. Like it's really good, but it's just different. And so we set some out there to a couple of liquor stores, and it was a big, diverse action. Like some people were like, hey, I got a jacked up bottle. And I'm like, no, come by the distillery. I'll trade you out. But I had a lot of new people that were like, came out to the distillery like, man, I do not like rye, but I just picked up a bottle of your rye at the liquor store, and I need to know more about what you do. And I go, what do you normally drink? And they're like, I'm a Scotch drinker, but I really like this rye. And I go, well, that's because that's not really what that, like, it's rye, but it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, it's not what you intended it to be.
Not what I intended to be. So we literally just have a few Scotch drinkers that come out. I still have a few cases left, and they just come and buy it when they run out of it. And so I still just have it sitting there for every once in a while. I get people in the distillery. So we use it as a tool to taste people on, hey, this is the difference. And then every once in a while, some people are like, dude, it's not terrible, but it's so different. I want to educate people, so they buy a bottle of it.
Wow.
So,
and I guess I got spoiled. So Mike Pelham with Bird's Eye Bourbon, he sent me this from Bobby's, this hazmat. It's a 9-year that Bobby and them had picked from a while back. And it instantly just blew me away. And then a little while later, a friend of mine gave me a sample of maybe a 10-year that he had, very similar flavor profiles. And I was just like mesmerized. I was like, this is fantastic. Like the depth, the like the profile of the flavors and like the complexity of it. Just, I was like, oh my God, this is freaking fantastic whiskey. And that's how that's what made me reach out to you. Was I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I've got to know more. But now I'm seeing that there's so many variations and flavor profiles, just like you're talking about. Now, I've not had anything from you that was grassy or earthy or like urban, like that. That's something I don't get with. Like, I don't really like that. And I thought it was just like red wheat that did that for me, but I think it's not red wheat because I've had some of those that are good. It's very circumstantial in a lot of different cases to the barrel, to the distillation process, and to the grain and the quality of the grain. But I mean, I've had ryes that are minty. That's not too bad. I've had some that were more like chewing on a pine tree. Definitely not my jam. Like, but these are that's just wildly crazy whiskey that I got those 2 bottles from you. Very same profile to this one.
Yeah.
Sampled it out to the group, and the group bought in. They were like, yeah, we want to do a pick on it, right? So that's what leads us to coming out there in September. And man, I can't wait.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking forward to you coming out and being able to kind of, because you're so into rye, like, rye's still like a growing category, I feel like. But when I find a person that drinks like has the same palate as I like, because it's like you had mentioned one of the barrels you got had a little bit more dill or a little bit more mint, and those are kind of the rarity where I feel like with some distilleries that's just kind of their thing. Mm-hmm. We don't get a lot of that dill and mint. We find them every once in a while, and some people like it. But I feel like that's when we see that more in the fields that had almonds. They drink more like a 95.5 rye, where you'll get a little bit more mint or dill. And I think a lot of that's because of there's not a lot of organic matter in those fields, right? You think about when you come out, you'll see the almond orchards. It's just nothing but trees and roots, and then basically the weeds that we get rid of as we're farming over the years. So other than a little bit of manure that we might put on throughout the years, like chicken compost to boost up some organic matter, they don't get a lot of stuff put on them. So the soil doesn't really change. And so when that's what I started to notice when we would pull an orchard out, plant the rye, and when I go back to it, I'm like, man, they're less complex. And some people like that. Some people taste I call it the sweet potato rye, the Merced rye off the sweet potato fields, and they're like, man, there's just a lot of like apple note and butterscotch and apricot and dried fruit that they don't really necessarily care for.
That sounds good, though.
Yeah, that's what I love, right? And they'll tend to lean towards that the almond field rye. And even the fields that when we're transitioning from a conventional sweet potato field to an organic sweet potato field, so we have to farm those fields in rye for a minimum of 3 to 5 years to transition from conventional to organic. And even those fields taste a little bit different when they're just grown in rye year over year.
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you since I just opened that, but what was your intention with these caps? Like, is this supposed to be a weapon? Like, this thing, it weighs at least a pound. Like,
yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to do, we initially did those for the single barrels because we wanted to do something special, and they're so heavy, and I was just like, man, I think we're just going to put these on all the top end stuff, and people like to keep them for keepsakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't throw one away because that's a very special port. The one in your 12 year? Is it? Yeah. So they're all synthetic, which I really love because I'm too lazy to flip bottles and wet corks. Like, who has time to do that when you have a few bottles to do that too, right?
And I wanted, initially we wanted to do real cork, and I've got a couple of Jack Daniel's single barrels that had real corks, and dude, it's just like, boom, it's just like a wine. And with spirits, it's just worse. Like, they dry out even faster. So
did you see the one I wrote last week in the 2020 Jack Daniel's rye? Like, I was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was
it
just at a
happens
friend's
a lot to me
house
on the
over
Russell's tins.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have a customer we make whiskey for. We make a bourbon for them, and they went with the real cork, and he's kind of regretting it now. He's like, pull them, the wood comes off, and the cork stays in it, and then you go to get the cork, and it falls in the thing, and they shrink.
Why? I mean, you're a distiller, so maybe you can help me understand that. Other than that's because it's the way it's always been. Why would anybody go with cork when synthetic fits properly always, and you don't have any other issues with it? Synthetic's got to be a little bit more expensive. Your bottles are expensive.
It's definitely
expensive, but
it's definitely more expensive, and I think people look at it as, well, it's sustainable, but it's when you think about, I have a 40-year-old bottle of Jim Beam so it's from 1975 when I was born. Actually, it's 50 years old. So that my grandparents got as a gift, and they weren't really big drinkers back in the day. So they got this bottle of Jim Beam that's in like I probably have it sitting up here somewhere.
You're making my mouth water. I just had an old granddad from 78, which is when I was born. Is that a Hewling Station you just pulled down?
So I have this. It still has the tamper stamp on it.
Oh, you hadn't even opened it. Okay.
I haven't even opened it. And it's still it's probably half full, but it's got a real cork. And I can see how dry it is, but it's probably evaporating. I'm like, I was keeping it for a keepsake, but I think I'm going to open it this year and try it. Who knows?
It may be ruined though, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, this is I don't know how many of these they made, but
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would ever open that, just because I don't know if the whiskey's any good. Plus, it may be more valuable with the whiskey in it.
Yeah, they gave it to me for my 40th birthday. My grandma's like, I found this in the closet, and I thought you would enjoy it. I'm like, holy crap, I'd never seen a bottle like that. But I guess
it brought it quite 30 years ago, right?
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny, 20. Well, shit. Like growing up, I wasn't even I never was a big drinker. Growing up here, I partied. Like, I should say, I drank. I wasn't a connoisseur.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my late 20s when I invested in some businesses in Vegas, which is kind of where this whole idea came from. And some older gentlemen are the ones, they really taught me how to drink good booze. Because growing up here, we grew up on Jack and Coke, Jim Beam and Coke, like Coors Light, like, Gallo wine. Like, we didn't have really good stuff. And even though Jack and Jim had good stuff, it wasn't readily available in our small town. So It wasn't until I, started really having older people open my eyes to good booze. And I mean, I never liked wine until somebody took me to Napa, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, I hope to visit some of those areas when we're headed your way. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, you have to, like, if you like wine, you got to go to Paso Robles or you got to go to Napa. Either one will definitely. And if you don't like wine, it's still worth a shot, because then I think it might change your mind.
For sure. I'm gonna take 1 second, and I mean, we've got a bunch of people chiming in, and I haven't addressed anybody. Y'all, I am terrible. We've had horrible technical difficulties tonight. I will ask you a question while I'm looking through this, David, since we're on the subject. What is some of your favorite brands that aren't yours? It sounds, I mean, I won't even put words in your mouth, but what are some brands or some particular bottles that are like your favorite that are outside of Corbin Cash?
I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I would say probably it depends on the product, but I mean, I love, it's funny. I wasn't a big fan of Jack Daniels other than the story until I went to Jack Daniels. Mm-hmm. And now I've been there 9 times and was able to get some rare stuff and single barrels and stuff that we couldn't get here in our town. And So their rye, I actually do. Their single barrel rye, I really do like.
It's stupid.
It's stupid good, like, you know,
And
and
consistent, man.
you know,
it's consistent.
it's nothing like, you know, it's not the typical, like, you know, because a lot of the ryes out there, they're just bullet 95.5. Even though you age them in different places, they have very similar tastes.
Yeah.
But Jack, you know, it's funny when they started releasing rye, I wanted to hate them, and then I'm like, God damn it, this stuff's so good, I can't. I'm like,
I always use the analogy, you know, we grew up on Jack and Coke or drinking Jack and having headaches. And so old number 7 just makes you kind of not like Jack Daniels anymore. But I'm like, these new bottles are a new Jack Daniels, and like,
yeah,
it's
no,
nothing like granddaddy stuff, right? And
yeah,
I have a like conspiracy theory that they have some dude locked away in a cellar, and they only bring him out to distill their barrel proof stuff, whether it be the Tennessee whiskey, I'll call it bourbon, or the rye. Like, man,
well, and I think
special.
what, as a distiller, I think what I understand about it now is, and it goes to the odes of like, okay, like, you know, typically when something's mass produced, you can't make it the best. But I think when it comes to one thing Jack Daniels figured out, and they've done well, is when you look at the mash bill for their bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, a lot of the things they release, they're all the same mash bill, but it's what barrel they're in, where in the rick house they are, and those things make a big difference. And when you think about being the biggest whiskey in the world, why number 7 isn't going to ever be the greatest is because they have to take these cross sections and they're just blending whatever don't make the cut for the other stuff, right? And so it's you can't have every barrel tasting like their rye, right? And I think that's kind of what, as a distiller, I understand that now. I'm like, okay, now I know why. You know, when you see how much whiskey they have, like, I'm like, holy shit, your rick house is 1 million gallons, like,
dude, like 3 miles from the distillery is nothing but mold all over fences and light poles and roofs. Like, it's crazy.
Well, the first time I ever went to Jack Daniels, it's a funny story. So I went there. You couldn't even really do a tasting. Like, it was like there wasn't even it was a dry county. You just went in, you did the tour, and that was kind of it. Okay. And then a few years later, I went in and they had a like a conference room that you went and you did your tasting in. And so when you would leave, they would be like, oh, go check out Lynchburg, check out the town, support the local business. And then it was like a few years later, I went back, probably like 5 or 6 years later. And then I go to do the tour and we pay and we get on the little bus. And then the bus drives out and they're like, oh, come check out our town. Because they basically have taken over all of Lynchburg.
Yeah.
And so when you used to drive right up to where they do the sugar maple through Jack Daniels facility, they actually took us outside of the facility, through the town, drove us around town, and then drove us in the back way through like where Coy Hill and all that is in the back. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, none of those rick houses were there when I first went. Like, and now I think they had like 14 the first time I ever went to Jack Daniels. Then the last time I was there, they had like 27. Like, it's just, it's insane.
It's nuts that they can even keep up with the mash bill. Guys, if I haven't answered any of y'all's questions or David hadn't, chime back in now that we're settled. I'm sorry. We had technical difficulties earlier. Seth was asking, can we buy your products online or do you ship to Georgia? I would love to.
Yeah, we have a way to ship. Go to our website and we have a way to get it out to you guys. We're actually, you know, we used to be distributed. Well, our vodka used to be distributed in Georgia, and then and we were doing really well. And then unfortunately, this was before the whiskey was ready. So then our distributor ended up picking up Tito's.
Oh, wow.
I had never even heard of Tito's at the time. And then we launched our sweet potato vodka in Georgia and we were killing it. We had like, within the first like 3 months, we had over 100 accounts, and then we had 300 accounts. And so we hired a sales team and we were kicking butt. And then all of a sudden, we're like, my sales guy calls me and says, I think you're going to have to fire me. And I'm like, why? He says, we're killing it. He's like, no, man, they got this new brand called Tito's, and they're just like blocking us everywhere we go.
No kidding.
Yeah. How funny.
Come in with the deep pockets.
Yeah. That's the problem with the vodka world, you know. So, but our vodka's made for like martinis, on the rocks, maybe a splash of soda. If you're making screwdrivers and vodka crayons, it's not worth it. You gotta want to taste the vodka and actually enjoy drinking it. So which is pretty rare nowadays.
So my buddy Gordon was talking to you earlier about the RFID issues with these Tap Me. You know, you do these cool things, and then they turn out to be like good deed goes no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing. But Gordon was saying after the RFID issues, he stopped buying, $400 or $500 for a couple bottles on the tag, saying they weren't valid, like BTAC. But he appreciated you telling him earlier about the issues you had. I hadn't even tapped one of these. Like, I guess I'm too anxious. I get them. I just tear into them.
The only reason, and the reason we really started doing it is now it allows us to talk to our customers directly. So in a sense of like, when you register, we'll get your email address. Like if we want to give a 20% discount on bottles, instead of like having to throw it on social media, we can give it directly to our customers by using your email, sending you a code that says, hey, we're releasing a master distiller pick. You can get 20% off or whatever.
Okay.
Or we can, for our, and it also allows us to see the hot spots of like, so that's why we're starting to see a lot of our bottles congregate in Texas. And so it tells me, okay, we have people that are buying these, getting them into Texas. So now I'm like, okay, maybe it makes sense for us to open up that market and try to drive some business in there, make it easier.
Caleb told me
people.
the other day that you signed on with Bonded, so I'm really excited about that, and that'll help out with my pick as well. So,
yeah,
and Caleb's a good guy. I think he will. He'll be pretty rapid in his response and paying the POs and stuff. So that'll be beneficial to you.
Well, I feel like we need a, in today's world, it used to be nice to have the big distributor because they were in everywhere and it was easy. But if you don't have somebody out there actually working the market, talking about it, who believes in it, then the big distributors, they're too consolidated now.
You get drowned out, right?
You get drowned out, and the big guys keep their lights on, so I get it. So yeah, no, I'm excited to work with him, and I think he's got some good accounts, and like I told him, I said, just like we did out here, is baby steps, and we'll grow it the right way.
Yeah,
that's why we're very particular releasing single barrels. We don't, I won't, like, you guys take a lot of effort into what you do, and so we don't we sell our single barrels to repeat customers who have the fan base. And then as we see states open up and it's like, okay, now I feel like there's more ability to sell more than we might open up. But we try to keep it to 1 or 2 persons per state, just because you guys have your congregate. Even though you guys spread nationally, a lot of people have their local followers. Yeah. And so, I'm all about the walk before you run kind of mentality.
Totally agree with that, man. And it's a lot on you guys as a brand to open yourself up to other markets and deal with all these different distributors. And so I totally get that. I will say, just a shameless plug, if you do decide to come into the Atlanta metro kind of area for Georgia, I have a really good rep that absolutely loves craft brands, and he is a hand salesman, and he's all about sips to lips, and he and I work together with a lot of stores there in Georgia. Basically, I'll do picks with those stores in Georgia. We'll put my logo sticker on there. It kind of helps, I guess, from what they say. But anyway,
is he a distributor or is he a broker?
No, he's a distributor with Atlanta Beverage.
With Atlanta Beverage, okay.
But
yeah, I mean, dude, I'd be happy to connect. I'll tell you what, man. we, like I said, we were killing it in Georgia. I think our sweet potato liqueur, I don't think you've had that yet,
I haven't.
but I think that's our probably overall against our rye, that's our number 2 seller. It's a sleeper
Okay.
product. So even though it's a liqueur, and it's only a liqueur because so basically what happened was I couldn't make sweet potato whiskey. So I was like, well, I'm sitting on all these barrels. I got to do something with them. So my mom used to make these dessert bars during the sweet potato dessert bars. So we decided to take basically the batches we're using now. It's 7-year-old sweet potato alcohol in new charred American oak, distilled just like our rye and bourbons. It's 7 years old. Then we infuse cinnamon, vanilla, and nutmeg. And instead of it being a sugar bomb 30% liqueur, it's 2%. So it's like the same amount of sugar as in an old fashioned. So it kind of tastes like November in a glass, like Thanksgiving in a bottle kind of thing.
Sounds good.
Oh no,
that might go real good in an eggnog, right?
Eggnog. It makes a damn good hot toddy in the winter. It makes a great split base old fashioned. Put it with your favorite rye or your favorite bourbon, and it adds like these nice notes to it. And then you minus out the sugar for the old fashioned and just use this. And that's probably 90% of our drink menus in the fall is a split base old fashioned or a split base Manhattan with it.
Okay. Really cool.
Yeah. So it's funny how it'll steal the show sometimes with these whiskey because it's just different. It's basically a whiskey cocktail. It just and it's freaking delicious over vanilla bean ice cream.
Oh wow. That sounds good. Kevin is talking about Michigan. Do you guys have a good footprint in Michigan yet, or?
We haven't been to Michigan, but we've had a couple of distributors reaching out in the northeast, and so we're starting to look at. I feel like our base products now. I've always kind of been, especially with the rye, like I was trying to master distribution in California. And I think what I realized, we were with Southern Glazers, biggest distributor. And it started out as a really good relationship because we were one of the few craft brands that they had. And as they grew and they made a craft book and everything started to shift. And the craft, we couldn't keep their lights on. So then they started bringing in Absolute Elix and Jägermeister and all these other things to put in the craft book. But it became challenging. And what I realized, I think, a little bit later than I probably should have, is California is just the most challenging market there is. Just not only is it the biggest, but all the big guys are fighting for all the business. And so even though it's our local market, there's a lot of pay to play here. And when we started to expand the single barrel program outside of the California and going out into the East Coast, and it's been funny to see how many bars and restaurants have reached out just from hearing guys like yourself. It's like, oh man, I got turned on by this. Can we get your product out here? And then, so now we're starting to see a lot of just on the, a lot of draw outside. So we're like, that's why we're looking to go to Texas, New York, Maryland. Iowa just reached out. So Control State, we've had a lot of interest in Iowa for whatever reason. Control states are such a pain. But so, yeah, we're at the point now. I'm like, you know what? I think if we can find the right distributor and the right people, even if they're small, that'll help us grow. I think it's the way to go. So
I agree, and I think Caleb will be huge for you. I think Garen with Atlanta Beverage would be good in the Atlanta area.
Yeah,
I've got a good friend with Southern Glacier here in Alabama, but Alabama's tough. But I will definitely connect you and Garen via email.
Yeah.
Y'all can chat and see if it's a fit. If it is, that's great, and I will bust my butt to help, because any craft product that I find to be phenomenal, I just go all in on it. Like, I want everybody to know about it. I don't mind doing videos with it. I'm not out here trying to do clickbait, trying to do the latest and greatest product that comes out. I want the people that follow me to be like, man, Brandon put me on something I never heard of and it's really good. And sometimes it's really affordable. Now your product is a little on the upper scale side, but man, I mean, you're using culinary grains like we talked about your cap earlier. You got special, these bottles are very different. I feel
well, and our cost, just to be honest, man, our cost of doing business out here is like
astronomical. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's astronomical. But here's the thing: we only run one. Basically, we have one still. So I'm starting to do an expansion at the distillery. We're going to be building a bigger place, because at the end of the day, like, we're getting more efficient, because I do want to see it's challenging for me because I have my threshold of price. I don't care if I love tequila, mezcal, wine, whiskey, but my threshold for a bottle is like $3.50. Like, if I'm paying more than $3.50, I never find it that good. Like, I've never had anything more that cost more than that I was just like, oh man, this was just so worth it. Like, our sweet spot, my goal is to get our 12-year down in the mid 100s, and our single barrels, I'd love to see them lower. And I think that as we grow more efficient, we'll never be the same as Jack Daniels. Obviously, we don't have the scale, but if you can, but yeah, no, and where the world's at, man, America's expensive. Like, it's sad. Like, people are strapped.
It is, dude. It's tough. And like, I work in the oil industry, and going to the gas pump and seeing my truck runs off 93. I'll buy 89 right now, but it's $5.29, $5.39 a gallon here in Alabama for 93, and that's nauseating.
You know how much it is here?
$125 a pump, probably $6.50.
$7. Diesel right now. Diesel was $8.15 a gallon.
I pray that this thing is coming to an end, man. There again, like, I work in the oil industry, and I still to this day don't understand why we utilize other people's oil reserves, and why our gas is priced off of their oil prices. I don't want to go there with you. I mean, we're an hour in. I'll leave tomorrow morning at 6, so I probably need to cut this thing short. But dude, cost of living is outrageous. And if people knew that the taxes that were put on you and everybody's hands that were in your pocket, they'd appreciate more the price points of your whiskey. I say that with Detling all the time. Very small brand, very limited amount of barrels to put out in a year's time. He still has to generate revenue. He needs enough capital to invest in the business to grow it. And so that's all relative to supply and demand, and his product. Yeah. Very similar with you. I see a really... it's very similar.
We've been doing this 16 years, man, and I haven't made money yet. But but I think what's kept us alive is the fact that we've stayed small, focused on making just good product, and then focusing on, like, instead of building some big fancy distillery, just focus on making it good and figuring out how to get it to the right customers and taking our time. And now I feel like, for us, the efficiency, the ability to continue to make the product the same way by just adding more stills and more fermenters. Obviously, there's a huge cost to that, but as we see demand go up, it makes sense. And so, but I mean, it's really, to me, it's taken us 16 years to prove our product. And it's just now, like, really becoming a thing. Like, I've been doing this 16 years, and that's nothing in the whiskey industry, but it's a long time for me.
It's a lot of patience for an individual, just from human nature.
So we appreciate, everything you guys do. And, and sometimes I tell people, I think with, like, going with Caleb, you guys are going to see the cost of our whiskey. If you're buying it outside of California, it tends to be a little bit better priced than when you're buying it from a retailer in California. And that's 100% because of the distribution challenges, so
That's good
Distributor-
because I prepped my group for our barrel pick, and I said this is what I paid from Bobby's, and obviously he's a little higher, right? Because
Yeah, but you got to remember
our group as affordably as possible.
Our distributors out here are 40% margin, and then so there's a 40% margin added on by the distributor, and then there's whatever the retailer decides to do. Some retailers are pretty fair. Some retailers, I'd say the average is about 30%. So you're looking at 70% markup. And so when we can
That's
go,
good to know. Like I oversold it price wise. There's no way I oversold it quality wise. Like I'm telling you, dude, this Merced Rye is just like, I talk about drinking whiskey that makes the neurological effects of endorphins happen in your body where you just get excited.
Yeah.
I don't want to drink anything else. And for me, that's where it's at. So what you're saying about the price is probably going to be less than what I quoted. They're going to be so excited.
Oh yeah, I think. Well, I mean, that's why I liked Caleb too. Like he's just straight what he does, and it's and it's that's what's nice to work with sometimes smaller guys because they can be more flexible. We're growing together kind of thing.
Yeah,
so that's really helpful. Jay at Shareport has been great. Like he takes reasonable margins, and so California, but like. Not to bang distributors out here, their cost to do business too. It's our state, man. Like it's just our state. Like I love
Alabama makes it tough.
If you can get
like
rid of the cost of living and the taxes and all the BS politics, we have a great state. Like especially here in the middle, we're a lot like the Midwest. Like when you get out here, you're gonna see it's a lot probably more where you live than what you're thinking.
Nice.
I mean, we're the farming belt. Like, I mean, we're the 7th largest economy in the Central Valley just from food production standards. It's all farmland, but we get pigeonholed for the tech and the movies and everything else.
Yeah. Well, as you send stuff over through Bonded and through that retailer, let me know because we have the ability to share those things on all of our sites, right? And so, I would love to continue to support you by promoting your product that way as well. And I'll continue doing videos. Can't wait to get out there and see you. We're an hour and 12 minutes in. So if you've got any final thoughts, I'll let you share those. And then I think I'll sign off.
Yeah, I gotta
packing up.
Yeah, no, I gotta get my son to his guitar rock practice. But no, I just want to say thank you guys for Brandon and everybody for jumping on. And if you guys have any questions on anything, just feel free to reach out to the distillery. And usually it's myself or my wife answering your guys' emails, depending, or our marketing guy. But if you guys have any direct questions for me, feel free to reach out. And and if you want, we have a newsletter. So if you go to tours, if you email tours, TOURS at Corbin Cash, if you sign up for our newsletter, typically anybody following that, we give, we'll let you know when we're doing special releases. We do have a whiskey club. Certain states it's hard to get stuff to, but feel free to reach out and we can talk about what state you're in and if we can ship there or if we have a way to get it there. But we typically offer 20% off on those. And then if you're on our newsletter, you'll know whenever we're going to release something special. So
cool. David, I've absolutely enjoyed it, man. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. I'm starting to wonder if it wasn't my laptop, and that makes me nervous because I swapped laptops and we've been fine.
Yeah, because since you swapped laptops, we haven't had any issues.
I don't have time for this, dude. Like I'm leaving tomorrow for 2.5 weeks, and I do all my editing on that computer when I'm gone.
Yeah. Are you going on vacation?
Yeah, I am. I'm getting away from the wife and going offshore for 2 weeks to work. So that's vacation for me.
Work vacation, huh?
Yeah, we moved the daughter back to Auburn yesterday. She's starting vet school, and
okay.
I told my wife, I was like, I can't wait to go to work and get away from this for just 2 weeks. Like I need a break. But
all right,
looking
guys.
forward to seeing you in September, man. And thank you so much.
All right. Thank you too. We'll see you guys soon. Cheers.
Right, bye-bye.